So Claire, I've made a pie chart here, there you go viewers, and I've basically charted Aventus versus some of its clones and imitators, and I've made a pie chart visibly representing smokiness versus fruitiness versus woodiness versus muskiness. What do you think?
We need to take a break from our relationship.
Hello everyone, welcome back. So here's my review today of Parfums Vintage, Pineapple Vintage, Noir Intense. There's the bottle. Nice sticker on the bottom. And looks like the other bottles mainly, but with a darker cap than some of the earlier versions. The box looks like this. Great logo, lovely picture on the back. It's a nice box. So this fragrance is the latest one from Parfums Vintage, Pineapple Vintage fragrances that they've done so far then. There are 5 of them and they're all themed around Creed's Aventus. They have the same fragrance notes more or less as Creed Aventus. Cassis replaces blackcurrant, but cassis is a smell that is like blackcurrant. Excuse me. So it's essentially the same fragrance notes as Creed Aventus. Primarily then, I won't necessarily remember all of them correctly, but pineapple, bergamot, apple, blackcurrant, birch, the smoky note in the base, patchouli. In Aventus we've got musk and oak moss as well, and I think there's jasmine. If I've missed 1 or 2 notes, sorry. That's the overall theme. So what you get is a really fresh citrus blast with Aventus, this smoky woody note in the base, and a little bit of sweetness and fruitiness. Very important, there's a fruitiness and there is bergamot. It's not just smoky pineapple as some people stereotype it. Anyway, Pineapple Vintage Noir Intense is the latest in a long line of fragrances from Parfums Vintage. The first one was Pineapple Vintage. Then, at the same time, they brought out Noir, Pineapple Vintage Noir. After that, they brought out Pineapple Vintage Intense, and then we now have Noir Intense, and there's another one called Beyond Noir. There's a scale with these. Pineapple Vintage, the original, was very, very fruity, pineapple-y, sharp. Pineapple Vintage Intense was also leaning towards fruitier batches of Aventus, very pineapple-esque, also with the other fruity notes in there, and a bit more ISO-y super and a slightly smoother woodiness. They smoothed it out a bit. Going on from there, on the scale of fruitiness going towards more smokiness, Noir was a little bit smoky. It's sort of a balanced version, but with a little bit more smokiness than either of the other aforementioned versions. Then, now we have Noir Intense. People have been frustrated that the Noir didn't have enough smoke. Noir Intense really gives us definitely some smoke. And then Beyond Noir is really, really smoky. That's how it works with the line, basically. They all have the same DNA. Some of the ingredients have been tweaked a little bit, but it's more that the actual concentrations of different ingredients have been varied, so we get different versions. So Noir Intense is 4 out of 5 on the smokiness scale, going towards smokiness. I have tried the Beyond Noir, and that's really, really smoky. The pineapple is very much diminished in that one, and the fruitiness less noticeable. What do we get with this one then? So Pineapple Vintage Noir Intense gives us a higher level of smokiness and a birchwood, kind of birch tar, burnt rubber kind of accord, mixed in with still that nice fresh pineapple opening and this fruity citrus element that we'll recognise if we've smelled any of the others. It's similar to Creed's Aventus. I've tried them side by side, and I've tried it extensively versus his other clones. It's more smoky than most Creed Aventus batches, I think. I've only got a couple. I've tried some others. And it's more smoky than most of the clones. It's more in the level of smokiness, close perhaps to Club de Nuit Intense Man, but it's definitely better than that because the opening is much more natural smelling. The fruitiness there, it does smell like they've used much higher quality ingredients. So it's a little bit like a Club de Nuit Intense Man kind of ballpark level of smokiness as far as Creed copies go, but with much higher quality ingredients. Still has the pineapple note that you don't really get with Club de Nuit Intense Man. So if you are keen on trying out something that's not actually Creed Aventus, but you want that smokiness that earliest batches of Creed's Aventus had back in about 2012, 2011, when the smoky element apparently was a bit higher, then this could be the one to go for. I think that the perfumier himself, Damien Stammers, has admitted that the mainstream one that is going to really appeal to most people is the normal Pineapple Vintage Intense, and I've tried that, A-B'd it with Aventus. It smells very, very close, the closest to my batch of Aventus, which is somewhat fruity. So if you're just looking for an Aventus clone, Pineapple Vintage Intense Normal with the white box is probably your best bet. The original Pineapple Vintage is extremely sharp and fruity and citrusy and, well, pineapple-y. It's like Aventus Sport. I like it, I really like it. It smells different to Aventus, but it's got its own DNA. I enjoy that. The just Noir version, not intense, is good. Balanced, bit more smokiness, quite like it. This one really brings in an actually, oh, that smoky kind of feel. Some other reviewers have talked about smoky bacon crisps and burnt rubber or tar. It does have that a little bit, but I find that that does really settle down. The opening seems a little bit in your face, but as you wear it throughout the day, it does settle down to an actually nice masculine version of Aventus with a little bit more of the masculine, rough, rugged elements of Aventus, which are important. It's not all about fruity pineapple, and they're really accentuated in this one. So I find as I wear it throughout the day, I really enjoy wearing it. I've got it in my hand now. It develops nicely. It's got a real classic smell. I know a lot of scents, and I wear a lot of scents from the old days. Things like Givenchy Gentleman that had lots of patchouli, as this one does. That had a little bit of a smoky, leathery feel. I don't have a massive problem with that. I don't find that shocking. So I think if you want a really rugged take on the Aventus idea where the smoky elements are amplified, this is a really good, interesting scent that you could well be interested in sampling. However, it's not dirt cheap because it's coming out at $95 or equivalent prices in other countries for 100 ml. So it's, you know, a little bit above designer prices, but it's not really up there at niche prices. So it's an interesting artisan or, you know, small indie company type product, I think. Some people may say, oh, it's just a clone, just a cheap clone, but I think there have been more. There's been more thought put into this than just the cheap clones, and real perfumery has gone in here. And I think that if you're looking for a smokier batch of Aventus, this one is well worth checking out. Beyond Noir, also same thing, but in that one, the smokiness is just a notch up, and it almost like the fruity citrus stuff is actually a little bit, really becomes buried a little bit, or much more secondary in that one. So it's a notch up in smokiness Beyond Noir. That's why I didn't get a bottle from the company. I'm sure they would have been happy to give me one, but I said, for me, this is as smoky as I would want to go in an Aventus themed scent. I really like it. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I personally prefer fruitier batches of Aventus. I prefer the fruitiness of Aventus more. If you're looking for a cheap alternative to Aventus, I still say L'Aventure by Al Haramain. If you just want to get something cheap, is a really good alternative. Club de Nuit Intense Man is okay, but I prefer L'Aventure. Al Dur Al Maknoun, it's in the picture here. I've got all the different, well, many different versions. For me, the cheapo version that I would go for is L'Aventure. If I wanted to get something and smell like Aventus more in this kind of price range from Parfums Vintage, Pineapple Vintage Intense would be my go-to. I do like the original with the really, really sharp pineapple element, and I do like this one for a bit more smokiness. So I think that people who are saying, oh, it's too smoky, it's burnt rubber, they need to give it more of a chance, let it develop on the skin, give it a few more wearings. It's masculine, it's rugged, it's interesting. I don't quite understand from a marketing point of view why they need 5 versions, and I think in a way it's to the company's credit that they're not just cynically trying to put out an Aventus clone. If they wanted to just make money, just give us 1 or maybe 2. If you're interested in perfume, if this project interests you, Parfums Vintage is worth checking out. I enjoy this one. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because I certainly lean towards the fruitier elements of Aventus. I prefer those, and I just like that undertone, subtle undertone of smokiness. So the smoke in this one, I probably wouldn't have gone out and bought a bottle, but if you like that element of Aventus and you like older batches where there's more smoke, it could be well worth checking this one out. The company Parfums Vintage did give me some coupon codes, so if you use the word coupon, all lowercase, then you'll get $5 off the sample sets, and if you use the word September, then for the month of September, you'll get 10% off the 100ml bottles, whichever one you choose to buy. Interesting fragrance. I like it. I'm kind of invested in the project. I like what they've done. It's fun. It's great. Is it the best thing in the world ever? No. Do we need 5 versions of different ways of doing it? Probably not, but they did it anyway, and I respect them for that. My favourite, just about probably Pineapple Vintage Intense. Also like the original, really ridiculously, someone opened a tin of pineapple chunks version, like that too. The smokiness in this one is fun. Lucky enough, I got a free bottle, thank you to the company, and I would wear it for nights out in autumn and winter. but I'll probably lean towards Pineapple Vintage Intense or the original. But if you like smokiness in your Aventus batches, I think this is worth checking out. Let me know what you think about Pineapple Vintage overall and about the other clones. Whatever we're doing in life, let's project. See you in the next video. Bye bye.